Jane Duker, political consultant attorney. Jay Kanzler, movie director, reformed politician, and all-around great guy. And Chad Garrison, editor of the Riverfront Times. Chad, you're up.
Well, I was, I want to talk about what I feel is like the biggest controversy in St. Louis this week, and that's these Rams players doing the hands up symbol as they walk out onto the field on Sunday. And this thing has just been like, in my mind, again, just blown out of proportion. I mean, what do the police department and what do like Rams fans think that these NFL players just surrender their freedom of speech rights when they sign on to the NFL and they did this thing that would have been no one probably would have even paid attention to it as they walk out of the locker room. They do this hands up gesture and what is it? I'm guessing that probably 75% of the NFL is African American, and I would think that probably most of these people, most of these players are young black men. They probably feel something and they want to share their thoughts, and to me this is just so blown out of proportion.
So you're not upset that they did it, you are upset at the reaction.
Yeah.
I think I sort of agree with Coach Fisher. It's like, look, I believe in separating politics and sports, and do I think they had every right to do it? Absolutely. Do I think it was a wise move? Absolutely not. In the sense that, so when are you guys going to stand up against domestic violence in your own league? I mean, there's all kinds of political issues, and everybody complains about Hollywood getting involved in politics. Well, I mean, you can do that. You can get involved, but it's not always safe waters. I mean, and so when you get involved in a controversy, well, then you're going to have to talk about it. You're going to have to answer for it, and that's that gets down a path. So do I think it was wise? Probably not. But do I think that the overreaction was much bigger than what initially occurred? Probably. And I think it probably made it more of a big deal than it would have otherwise been.
Jay,
what do you think, McGraw?
I think they're both smoking something from Colorado because if a player would have come out with "I am Darren Wilson" on his sleeve, the controversy would have been over the top.
I agree with that. I think that's true.
When the police officers, when you are representing the St. Louis Rams, Aeneas Williams goes down to Ferguson and stands on the street corner and talks to these kids and does whatever he does, right? He's representing himself. If Jared Cook and all these guys want to go down and represent themselves as an NFL player or whatever else and go down and march and whatever, knock yourself out. You're representing the St. Louis Rams, and in a league where you get fined for the wrong chin strap, where you get fined for throwing the football in the stands, they don't get fined for making a political statement?
Well, I think you're kind of confusing the issue. Yes, they represent the St. Louis Rams. They don't represent St. Louis, just as the St. Louis Police. Jeff Ruda, the spokesperson or union boss or whatever he is for the police association, the police don't represent St. Louis so much. I mean, it's St. Louis is not represented by any one person or any one thing. And to say that these Rams players, solely the reputation of St. Louis, no, I mean they stood up for what they believe in, and in my mind it reckons back to the Olympic players holding up their hands.
Okay, so now people can wear 316 on their eye black, right? I mean, where does it end? Are we now going to allow players to have I am
it's
Darren
a
Wilson?
Slope that,
How long was this? It was 5 seconds.
Well, they actually also had their hands up throughout the game too after every touchdown.
during the touchdown celebration.
Yeah.
Well,
but he also had Michael Brown on his sleeve too. He had it written on his sleeve on his tape.
I think if they really want to make a statement, they would sit out for Michael Brown or sit out for Ferguson or intentionally drop a pass. Maybe for Ferguson. I mean, that would really be a controversy. See people being angry. Yeah.
And before I let Jay speak, and I know you guys are my guests, so I'm doing too much of the talking. What offended a lot of people was when they were asked about it, they didn't even say, "I'm supporting the hands up, don't shoot." They said, "What are you so upset at? We're just supporting Ferguson." Well, they weren't just supporting Ferguson.
I read an article
that's the point.
days before that game. There was an article by the beat reporter for the Rams in the Post-Dispatch about how they're playing for Ferguson this week.
Right.
So I mean, it wasn't like
and the business owners were there.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was like
But they should have. But they should have put "I Heart Ferguson" on their sleeve, which is acceptable, as opposed to picking a side.
Which is acceptable.
Well, look,
they said they weren't picking a side, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Well, but that's like saying having the police.
We had to try to figure out what the players actually meant because they're hedging. Then you had to figure out whether Kevin Demoff and the Rams were hedging. Did they apologize? Did they not? And I just, it was just a big hullabaloo when neither side wanted to pick sides, but yet they were sort of doing things that made people think they were picking sides. And I just think, why get into that?
The police were told by the Justice Department they are not allowed to wear the black Live Strong wristbands that say "I am Darren Wilson."
And that, yes, because that.
So you're going to tell me that they're out protecting the protesters or protecting the businesses or not protecting the businesses, and they have a "I am Darren Wilson" thing on their uniform. They're allowed to do that?
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, you're just fanning the flames if you go out there into these protests wearing a "I am Darren Wilson" bracelet. This is a game. This is a game, and these guys.
It wasn't It wasn't a game in Phoenix. It was a game in St. Louis. It was
you lost me there.
No, they're fanning the flames here in St. Louis. I understand it's a game, but it's in St. Louis. It's right after we saw our town burn. Mm-hmm. It was a unifying game by a unifying organization. And then to have them pick a side, whether they say they weren't, that's what got people so upset.
They should have done something in support of the Oakland Raiders. That's a team that needs everyone's support.
Yeah, they need more pity than anyone.
They came out with their hands up, but that was just surrendering from the very beginning.
Well, that's the sad part is they win 52-0, and no one's talking about what a great game they played.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you that I think there's some double standarding going on. But my view of it is, I think that I think it was blown up, and I think from a practical standpoint, if there hadn't been, such a sort of rage response, that I think it would have been sort of a one-dayer and people would have, gone on. But I think we had the story continue because of the extreme response we got from the Police Officers Association. And I understand their frustration and,
the police in St. Louis have been pretty beat up over the last 4 months, and they've had to go stand a post, and people go 3 feet from their face and tell them and call them every name in the book.
Right.
And then to have a player who they go and support and defend and protect to then pick the other side, you can certainly see why the police would get a little angry.
Well, and that's what I mean. But from a practical standpoint, this Rams, hullabaloo didn't move the ball and didn't, help the conversation in any way, shape, or form. And that to me is like, let's evaluate this on what it really does to move the ball and making things better. And I just don't think this did it.
What's the message? Again, protesters, people that are out there, what's the message we're trying to get out there? And that's been, again, my ongoing frustration with this. The players themselves couldn't even figure out or don't want to say now publicly what it was they were trying to say. What was the point? What was the message? Where are we going with this?
When you put your hands up, what are you saying?
Jane Duker, Chad Garrison, Jay Kanzler, back in a moment. Big Five.